This week we learned that the PlayStation 5 went on a diet and slimmed down for this holiday season. But we're not here to talk about any of that modern stuff, because this is a show all about retro news. I'm talking about remakes, remasters, re-releases, and, well, pretty much anything else that has to do with old school games and classic consoles. So get ready to blow into that cartridge, because this is Retro News with whatever my name is. Let's do this! We're going to kick things off today with an announcement that is 33 years in the making. That's right, more than 3 decades after it was supposed to come out, the Atari 2600 action game Save Mary will finally be getting a physical release later this year. Developed by Todd Fry, the man responsible for the Sword Quest series and, sadly, that rushed Pac-Man port, Save Mary was originally developed back in the late 1980s. Unfortunately, the game was scrapped right before release when Atari dropped support of their long-running and woefully out-of-date 2600 console. Now, 33 years later, you're finally going to be able to get your hands on a copy, assuming you're willing to pay $60 for a silver collector's edition box, which comes with the game and a full-color instruction manual. But with only 500 copies available, you better hurry up if you want it. Just don't expect Mary to be super understanding, because she's been waiting more than 3 decades to be saved. Speaking of old school Atari games, the company just announced that Berzerk is going to be the next game to get the recharge treatment. Coming later this year, this is going to be the 10th game in a series that includes everything from Centipede to Missile Command to Yar's Revenge. We'll get the usual challenges, arcade mode, and co-op fun, all of which makes a ton of sense for this run-and-gun action shooter. In my opinion, Atari's been killing it with the Recharge series recently, so I'm optimistic that Berzerk will continue that trend. While the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Switch have been selling millions of systems to happy gamers all around the world, there's one piece of sales data that is raising eyebrows. According to Matt Piscatella, the executive director at Circana, the group that used to be known as NPD that tracks individual store-level sales data, one brand new Wii U has sold in the United States in September. That's right, somebody actually was able to buy a new Wii U in 2023. It's actually the first time that the Nintendo system has sold since May of 2022. He also noted that the last new PlayStation Vita unit to sell was back in November of 2021, when 3 sold in 1 month. No word yet on how much dust they had to wipe off of that Wii U box. Hey, did you hear that we're actually getting a new Snow Brothers sequel in 2024? Now, in case that name sounds familiar, but you can't quite place it, Snow Brothers, or Snow Bros if you prefer, was a 1990 action game developed by Toaplan, the company that's best known for their line of shoot-em-ups like Hellfire and Zero Wing. It is not to be confused with Nintendo's Ice Climbers. This brand new sequel will feature a new adventure and will expand into a more modern 3D world. Look for Snow Brothers Wonderland to show up in 2024 on the Switch, as well as both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. While we're on the topic of iconic duos, one of my favorite 8-bit friendships has to be A Boy and His Blob, the NES game that was developed by industry icons David Crane and Gary Kitchen. If you're also a fan of this quirky open-world puzzle platformer, then you're going to be happy to know that Ziggurat Interactive and Limited Run Games will be launching A Boy and His Blob Retro Collection, featuring the aforementioned NES game as well as the Game Boy sequel. This upcoming collection will be powered by the Carbon engine and will feature a number of quality and life improvements, including the ability to save your progress. That's a big one, guys. Look for this compilation to hit PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Switch on October 17th, with the PC version coming in the near future. We're going to be back later this week with a review crew episode covering this exciting collection. This week also brought us the announcement of new hardware. No, not the slimline PlayStation 5 that we already talked about, but rather the Sega Saturn Pro controller from Retrobit. This is a brand new design that looks like a mashup of the normal Saturn controller, only now with a pair of Hall effect analog sticks. This is an officially licensed wireless pad that will open up even more of the Saturn's vast and amazing library, including analog enhanced games like Nights into Dreams, Sonic, 3D Blast, and Burning Ranger. Best of all, you're able to use the controller on both the Saturn and pretty much any USB device. I own a couple of Retrobit's previous Saturn controllers and I love them, so I'm excited to get my hands on this brand new model. The Sega Saturn Pro controller is currently available through a pre-order campaign. While we're on the topic of pre-order campaigns, don't forget that you still have time to get your hands on both a collector's edition and a deluxe edition box set of Assault Suits Valken on the Super NES. We covered this a couple of weeks ago in a review crew episode, but Assault Suits Valken was originally called Cybernator in the West, and it kicks a whole lot of ass. This is a critically acclaimed action game that was a mix of Contra and MechAssault, complete with an epic story full of memorable characters and some great dialogue. This new Retrobit release will bring the unedited and uncensored versions to America and Europe for the first time ever, and you still have a few weeks to get your pre-orders in. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really excited for this one. And finally, let's go ahead and turn our attentions over to Limited Run Games, who have their own pre-order campaigns going on right now. They're going to be bringing out a number of Jurassic Park games to modern consoles, including Jurassic Park on the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super NES, Game Boy, and even the Genesis, as well as Jurassic Park Part 2, The Chaos Continues on Super NES, and the Genesis version of Jurassic Park Rampage Edition. The company also has a pre-order campaign going for Disney's Gargoyles Remastered, which is an update to the critically acclaimed Genesis game. Limited Run Games is currently selling physical copies of these games and big box sets on a variety of modern consoles, but I have to imagine that both Jurassic Park and Gargoyles will eventually get a digital release sometime in the near future. You know, similar to what they did with the Bill and Ted collection. Thankfully, most of the games in these packages were a lot better reviewed than Bill and Ted, as you're going to see in a future episode of Limited Run Games Review Crew. But until then, that's the news, and I'm out of here. Hey, thanks for watching this debut episode of Retro News. Now, before you ask, this is going to be a regular feature. However, you should not expect it to be every week. I'm basically going to do one of these episodes every time I have enough stories to fill 7 or 8 minutes. So, maybe we'll be back next week, or maybe it'll be 3 weeks from now. I don't know. Now, here's the question I have for you. What old school game console has the best controller? Oh, I know a lot of people love the Saturn controller, and maybe somebody out there wants to make an argument for the Virtual Boy controller. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back shortly with a review of Atari's new Haunted House remake, as well as a review crew episode covering A Boy and His Blob. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,